for that very enlightening and encouraging speech. I will have to request you to come back on stage, ma'am, for the Q&A session with Mr. Harsh Roongta. Yes, please. Yeah, sure. I'd like to welcome Mr. Harsh Roongta. Harsh is the Principal Officer of Fee Only Investment Advisors LLP. He is a distinguished chartered accountant and a tax expert. Harsh has been a serial entrepreneur, having successfully exited his venture-funded startups apnaloan.com and apnapaisa.com. In 1998, he was responsible for setting up ICICI's retail lending business. He is also the author of the Complete Home Loan Guide. He is a well-known expert on finance on popular business channels and writes a fortnightly column, Truth Be Told, in the Business Standard. And he has been conducting several workshops on taxation and personal finance. Over to you, Harsh.
Thank you. Good morning. It almost reminded me of the ICICI days, the 1 lakh target. I think, and I think it has been achieved in so many other areas. I mean, if just looking at, Amrit Kal, as they say, is upon us. And if you look at the role that SEBI has played, it's a seminal role, right? I mean, global standards setting, capital market infrastructure. I mean, we're talking of T+1 has been done, and we are now talking 1 hour and instant settlements. The mutual fund industries, I mean, all the leading lights are here, $500 billion and counting $2 billion of SIPs. And Mahesh is here, account aggregator. I mean, it will democratize the availability of citizen data. And yet when we turn to the investment advisory profession, and clearly, as you yourself mentioned, less than 1,000 people today, and God willing, we will be the 1 lakh plus, 1 million plus, I'm sorry. 1 million. I missed a zero. I missed a zero. And obviously what happens because of that is that the unregistered investment advisors, UIAs, as I like to call them, or finfluencers, they sort of have rushed in. Because there is a need, clearly, a fiduciary need for fulfilling that advice. Okay, and that's how we came up with this analysis. And thank you very much for the kind words on that. So very clearly, I think from the association side, there are just two things, and this is something we have heard, that is the regulator, okay, worried about the low number of RIAs? Is it in investor interest that it will be so low? Because otherwise, if the fiduciary registered advisors are not there, the UIAs are obviously coming in. And you spoke about this segmented regulation and the difficulties with that. So the issue, I'm just going to turn that into a question, but the issue with that is that today probably, as we mentioned in the ARIA video, there are 3 segments. And it's very difficult for, say, a financial planner or a non-trading call provider to be able to identify all the malpractices that happen in a trading call provider. So would the regulator sort of look at segmenting out or in, depending on whichever way it goes? Because maybe these 3 segments don't belong together. And it's an accident of history that, they've sort of got into a common regulation. Because the ability of the association to be able to represent 3 completely distinct kinds, and definitely the trading call providers, which are the cause of the problem, 95% of the orders, and unregistered being 72%. How do we sort of even begin working with the regulator on that?
So I'll tell you, Harsh, we are completely open, and I think you rightly said that if something is an accident of history, we shouldn't just perpetuate it for the sake of perpetuation. And I think the recent extension of the academic requirement circular that we did is a reflection of that. Because what the team believed was, 3 years ago, what was said, today the world is completely different. You don't even need to go into ancient history. Just 3 years ago, the world, in terms of the way that there were finfluencers, unregistered advisors, chatbots and ChatGPT, tomorrow algo players, the world has changed entirely in 3 years, and therefore for us to stick with what we said 3 years ago is perhaps not appropriate, and it needs review, and let us give an extension and let us review. So I think the evidence is on the table that SEBI is not wedded to anything which is Baba Adam. If life has changed, we will change. So that commitment is there and is in evidence. I think, as I said earlier, our problem is खाने के दांत हाथी के दिखाने खाने के और दिखाने के और. So if you say just separate us from the guys who give the trading calls, I have only one question to ask. Please tell me what is the source of your income.
Okay.
Because I hear again and again, I narrated that story, investors do not pay for advice, they pay for performance. Then other sources of revenue. What other sources? Now I will give a referral to the broker. Now for all the trading that the broker does, that he does through that broker, I will get a certain cut. Okay? Now, why? Because, no, that I'm an authorized person. So, I'm entitled to get. So, I'm saying, at the end of the day, I have not met a single person who has come to me and said, my client pays me for the advice I give him, nothing more.
So, yeah,
I've not met.
I'm sorry to interrupt there, but as it was introduced, the name of my firm itself is called Fee Only Investment Advisor.
I'll tell you. Let me give you another example.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true for you, but it's, again, something that I've heard. Fee only. Okay? Now the question is, fee only, I'm giving advice on what? So someone says, see, I have high net worth clients. I give them advice on EB5 visas. Okay? All of us who have children abroad, we all know EB5 investment is the most risky investment you can ever make, and it's a substantial, right? At that time, it was some $400,000, $500,000, $800,000. And it is locked up for some 7-8 years. Chances of getting it back are near zero. Now, you have a registered investment advisor giving advice on a product that is not regulated by SEBI, a highly risky product in which $500,000 is most likely to vanish into thin air. After 7 years, the investor will come to SEBI and say, he was registered with you. I thought you are supervising everything he is doing. Now he has lost me $500,000. Now what are we supposed to say? So an advisor giving advice on products that are not regulated by us and not regulated by any regulator. Okay, you happen to be doing insurance. We have said often that, the regulators have been discussing that you are doing something which is a regulated activity. You follow their rules for that and our rules for that. But what about totally unregulated things like this? And then tomorrow that comes back on us. So tell me what I'll do with that scores complaint that your regulated entity made me lose $500,000 and he was a fraud.
So,
Ab kya karenge? Number one. Number two, मैं पूछूंगी. But he told me, this is what I'm saying, nexus. Yeah, he told me that, the other thing I have to give to his wife. Now, I gave him this and then the other stuff So, it's not that straightforward. You sit in our chair.
Absolutely.
And you help us craft and you tell us how you will risk mitigate. We don't want to ban anything. You tell us how we will risk mitigate all this. We are open, willing. You all are the best brains in the country on this. We are happy to co-create with you. But ये सवाल हम पूछेंगे, फिर उसका जवाब आप हमें दीजिएगा.
So just one thing I really want to sort of appreciate, I think the world has changed. And I would want to do a poll in the room, right? About how many people have income coming in only from the client.
No,
Only from the
no,
client.
1 minute. From regulated products of the client. Okay, one minute. Please lower your hand if you get any referral income from anybody else. No, lower. So, no referral income?
No.
From anybody?
No.
No profit share from anybody?
No.
No other product income?
No.
Cross-sell, upsell?
No.
I got them a property?
No.
अरे यार ठीक है चलिए all those who put up their hand, the proposal that we have on all your fees coming through the central mechanism, so you would have no challenge, no difficulty, and you will sign us a petition with your signature saying you have no challenge in implementation of that, and there will be no other income that will come to you or your associates.
Sir?
Manzoor?
Yes.
चलिए, very good.
So,
चलिए, जीवन, आपका काम हो गया. One petition signed.
We have already signed. We have already sent, ma'am.
जितने हाथ उठे थे, कम से कम 50-60 हाथ उठे थे. So जीवन गिन के लेके आना, हाँ? Before everybody leaves, they have to sign saying we support and have absolutely no problem in coming through this and giving an undertaking that there is no other direct or indirect billing to the client.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Oh, wonderful.
Can I?
अरे आज की तो पैसा वसूली हो गई.
Can I? So,
Very happy.
so it's so great. It's so great that you have raised this. Okay, and I think all your colleagues are here and they are privy to this fact that what we are saying is that the central fee collection mechanism that can work provided there is a widespread awareness about, one, that there is such a profession as investment advisors, okay? Two, that it's good you pay the fees or somebody else will pay the fees for you. Third comes the method of paying. And I think that wide awareness campaign is a necessary precondition. In fact, in our submission to the consultation paper, that's what we have pointed out, that this wide awareness campaign is something...
I have no disagreement with you. The only difference that I'm guessing, it's not that you've said it, is that if you're thinking SEBI is going to do a 500 crore television IPL kind awareness program, forget it. Seedhi baat hai. We don't do it, okay? Now, what do? I'm saying that through events, through investor education programs, and today you know that the whole art of communication has shifted, okay? Did anyone need to do a 500 crore campaign to encourage people to use WhatsApp? Kabhi aapne ad dekha? Earlier. Now, of course, there's a lot of this thing on encryption and privacy and all that. Jab shuru mein aaya tha, when you first adopted WhatsApp, was there any advertising you saw? No. So the question is today, content rules. You have the ability to make this pitch. You have the ability to go and talk in social media. You have the ability. You have a large number of supporters from the mutual fund industry who support you. And you have the ability to do that. But at a later stage, when your association becomes very large and you have 1 million members and so on and so forth, maybe you can do a mutual fund sahi hai kind of a campaign, which they do. Right? They do out of their money. So SEBI cannot do that, but there are enough and more means by which today what is sensible can be done and the word can be spread. We issued one report that 90% of all investors in the F&O market lose money. Did all of you see it? Did we need to do an ad for it? No, we didn't do any ad. So I'm saying what is sensible and what is relevant to a person, it spreads like wildfire today.
Let me live up to the aggressive tag that you gave me.
Yes.
I think the key is that there is history. The fact that people are not accustomed to paying fees, it's changing. As a lot of people in the room, as I and a lot of other people in the room can certify, that it is changing. It's changing for us. We want it to change for 1 million advisors. And I think that cannot be done without the blessings and the active support of
But
the
not
regulator.
500 crores. Bhaiya, you're living in some... वो dream ना, वो dream नहीं है. नहीं. सवाल ही नहीं, हमारे पास है ही नहीं, sir. तो ये आप भूल जाइए. You're not going to get even a penny out of us. We don't do it.
So then
We don't do it.
So then the issue will come back to the issue about the centralized fee collection mechanism when there is a lack
Harsh,
of...
I don't understand. I don't understand your question.
Okay.
Because if you are saying that all of you are only collecting kosher money and you are going to tell your clients that from tomorrow, please pay through this, and this is your guarantee that you're dealing with somebody who's a registered entity and a kosher entity, and you ask that person to tell 5 of his friends and they tell 5 of his friends, and you know, the maths, you don't need a PhD to build that geometric progression, okay? You'll reach everybody. You'll reach everybody. So it's very simple. If you have a proposal that makes sense and is relevant to people, then it spreads like wildfire. I told you, our 90% loss making, the whole of the country knows about it. We never issued any ad.
Absolutely. But the point, again, and we will close this after this, is the fact that I think this entire room knows this. How many of the people who actually do the FNO, they know it? Have they,
know it.
although we are now forcing them,
We
I believe.
all know it because all the qualified brokers, which account for some 70% of all retail investors, now they flash it every time you log in, right? And it says 9 out of 10 people lose money and people say yes. See, our job, we are not a nanny state. Our job is to say, please be careful, आगे खाई है. अब आपको फिर भी कूदना है, तो आप कूद लीजिए. हमारा काम है कि उधर खाई है. So this is how you have to work it. Okay? So you speak to, I don't know where you speak to your your partners in the mutual fund industry, speak to the depositories, the cash statement goes, put it on that. Use your imagination. Every investor in the country gets that. Every investor in the country gets an SMS. Work with the ecosystem. You will reach directly everybody, no? Use your imagination, Harsha.
Again, the issue is that we are only 900 people, and of them probably...
You need only one savvy digital marketing person. Get him on contract for 2 months to design your digital campaign, leveraging existing resources on a zero budget. He'll do it.
Thank you. So I think we've heard what we are required to do. Moving on to some of the major pain points of the good guys, as you say, and these are real major pain points. I think unless we find a way to sort of solve this, the 1 million mark is really not going to be possible. So one is this compulsory 3-year recertification, giving your exam all over again, okay? That is a huge business continuity risk, and a lot of us in the room, because we gave it in 2020, a lot of us are due to give the exams, and I don't mind admitting, I am fearful as well. And I contributed to the syllabus. It's acknowledged in the syllabus. I teach the PGP course in NISM, and yet I do not mind acknowledging, I am afraid. My point more seriously is this, that it is posing such a huge continuity risk that it discourages people from even considering the profession at all. That's
what would
one.
you like? What would you like? What is your suggestion?
Sorry?
What is your suggestion? What would you like?
So I think, as we have suggested, there is that if there is a certification, okay, then people can specialize. There is a continuing, whether it is medicine, whether it is chartered accountancy, whether it is law, there is an ongoing professional education that goes on. And, there is compulsory, points that need to be put there. And what that allows people to do is to specialize. Because, investment advisory is large, right? There are lots of financial planners in the room today. There are lots of long-term buy and hold equity people. I don't think there are trading call providers in the room. But basically, it allows us. So people can specialize in tax advisory, personal tax, relating to investments. People can specialize in...
No, I think what I meant to ask Harsh was that, let's say, for instance, regulations change, markets change. How do we ensure that the person who is giving advice is current with the regulation and the developments in the market? That's our objective. See, we operate on first principles. And my teams know something, they will say, ye regulation. Why do we have it? Why do we have it? What purpose is it serving? All right? So, the purpose of this regulation is that you are advising somebody in money, and life changes, regulations change, markets change, so many things change. So, how do we ensure that the person is up to date before he gives advice? That's our limited objective. Help us to address that.
So it could be it could be a refresher course, that like the chartered accountants have a refresher course, but it is again specialized, because the refresher course could be in taxes, it could be in auditing standards.
No. Again, that's not addressing our need. I'm saying the regulation has changed over 3 years. How are we sure that the new person knows, how do we know the old person knows the new regulation?
By doing the refresher courses, making him or her do the refresher courses.
What does it mean, do the refresher course? Means not pass a test.
You can have a certification exam if required. They can, but it should not be the whole course all over again, because that, I think, is does not happen in any profession.
We are open. Wherever things change, as I said, we will go to first principles. Please note, Jim, our first principle thinking is, you're dealing with other people, not dealing, you're advising people on their money. This is serious business. You should be up to date on certain things. I think we can all sit down and agree on what is it that's really dynamic, what is it that doesn't change. Discounted cash flow does not change. You don't need to ask me the question again. Agreed. Regulation changes, you need to ask me again.
Sure.
Agree on a list of saying, this is dynamic, this is static. There is no need to test you on static stuff. Dynamic stuff needs, once again, a refresher and a certificate. Because some people say, we'll learn, but don't test us. तो वो तो page down होता है ना, उसमें तो there is no such thing.
I completely agree.
We are very open. Please send your recommendations, and Mr. Jeevan Sonparote will, with full seriousness, evaluate that, and we will break it up. What's dynamic, what is static?
Now that you are in the...
So,
this I was asked to ask.
That's all it takes to get talis.
So this
ये तो बड़ी simple सी चीज हो गई भाई.
So the tali was also because, Renu had specifically asked, it's her birthday today, and this was the birthday gift that she had asked for. The other thing is the persons associated with investment advice, the requirements for a person to sort of attract, and this is a nascent profession as of today. We're flying, we will fly, but as of today, we are nascent. And today, for anybody to face a client, she needs to be a postgraduate, needs to have 3 years of experience, needs to have passed 10A, 10B.
What do you want? Kya chahiye aap?
So I think the experience requirement and the post-graduation requirement should be removed, because anyways, if he or she wants to become RIA, at that time they will have to become a postgraduate. But how do we get a fresher in? Let that be a graduate. Let a fresher come in. 10A, 10B keep, so that they are aware of all the requirements of the profession. And so we are also able to afford these kind of people. And 10A, 10B then becomes a entry point to attract freshers in the profession.
Next year, will you ask me, why do you need a graduate?
Will we ask her?
By the way, पूछा गया था मेरे से. See, the problem is I've been around too long. I have data for everything. Actually, I was asked, graduate की क्या ज़रूरत? What's wrong with, because the original, where was it? Somebody remind me. The registrations that used to be done, it was the requirement was 10 standard pass or something. Huh? 10th. Huh? So I was told, so see, you laugh. But this is reality, and there was huge resistance. Why do you want graduate?
We want graduate.
What is wrong with 10 standard? What is wrong with 10 standard pass? And then, SEBI wants financial inclusion. Yes, you want. You want us to go to tier 4, tier 5 cities. I don't get graduates over there. What is wrong with 10 standard pass? So, just to be clear, will you ask me next year, 10 standard pass?
No.
No?
No.
You want graduates?
Yes. We are on camera. So, shall we clap?
No. No, I think, see, let me put it this way. The answer is a yes, but. Why? Because our philosophy is allow something but with risk mitigation. Okay. So supposing we say, okay, chal, okay? You say you don't need to have, you can have a graduate and let them pass the necessary exams and let them be associated. Now they are associated with you. Tomorrow, if they do anything wrong, your license, no. Again, I have data. See, you will shake your head. He was a rogue employee. How am I supposed to know? I didn't know. I sent him over there. He was on tour in some, B30 town. How do I know what he's doing? I cannot record everything he says. He went and said these wrong things. He went and said assured return and all that. He was a rogue employee. I'm not responsible. So you tell me, and we'll do a deal right now. The impact of wrongdoing of that person will be on you, meaning on the registered entity. You will not have the excuse of saying one rogue employee did something, ab main kya karu?
Folks.
Deal?
Deal.
Very few hands I saw.
Folks, come on. Deal, ma'am.
Deal?
Deal.
Deal. Chal.
So, somebody had promised me something if this happens. I want them to remember this. Okay? And now that she is in the mood, the third one.
Kuch bhi.
The fee charging.
First of all, no. But yeah. On a more serious note, everything that I'm saying here, the deal is we promise to examine it, we promise to take it to our advisory committee.
Absolutely.
This is not this thing.
I
We have to, this is a open, the deal is we are open to it and we will examine it and go through
You are considering it. You are considering
actively consider.
Absolutely.
We will take to our advisory committee and all of that for active consideration.
Absolutely. There are two more things. Okay. The other is on the fee charging mechanism. So today, we are allowed to charge either on a fixed fee basis, maximum of 1.25 lakhs, or on an assets under advice basis, 2.5%. We are not allowed to mix and match. Now, the point is that definitely in financial planning and in other non-trading call provider profession as well, there is a need for doing both. There is a need for reasonable fee, that's a regulation. Our submission, our request is that we be allowed to charge on a hybrid basis.
See, our
Not
problem
profit
is,
sharing, hybrid,
I'll tell you.
subject to higher of the two limits.
No, we have seen this, and this one is a no-go for the simple reason that you are now headed squarely to PMS. We've seen too much of it. ये नहीं होगा सर. आप या तो बोलिए, आप advice दे रहे हैं, आप PMS. You have to admit, if someone's running PMS, we cannot help you.
Absolutely.
So you are giving advice. What is your arrangement? And the reason that number has been put there, what is the limit?
1.25 for fixed
And there's a reason why it is there. This is not a number out of a hat that somebody in SEBI woke up and said, "Acha, kitna dale?" No. This is 2.5% was permitted to brokers and they give incidental advice. Let it be the same over here. And 2.5% of 50 lakhs, which is where PMS starts, is 1.25 lakhs. So this was the logic. And if you have a client who is bigger than 50 lakhs, please go under PMS, discretionary, non-discretionary. You have the ability to do that. And please take whatever fees you want, performance, everything. But this is the straight route to effectively doing PMS, which is currently illegal, and therefore we will not be able to consider that.
So I again actually go back to this segmented question, and one of the things that is happening is that a lot of people in this room actually don't do direct equity at all. Okay? We don't, and I think there are many people who don't do direct equity at all. Obviously, there are RIAs who do long-term buy and hold equity. The issue, and that is why this segmented and the need for separation, is that when we do financial planning, right, there is this need. There is no question of a PMS in financial planning in that sense.
See,
there
Harsh,
could be if you do direct equity.
No, Harsh. We cannot build regulations for one specific niche business model. We are open to segmentation. We've not yet, unfortunately, reached a stage where we can do anything which is more. Maybe we will reach a stage. Maybe one day when you come in and say, I want a regulation for me alone, and SEBI will say, this is science fiction maybe. SEBI will say, okay, you and all your family members and all the companies or entities that you are associated with, you give us the consent for monitoring through account aggregator, all your bank accounts, so that we know exactly what's coming in and out. No, 1 minute. And now we have the confidence that we can use technology to monitor what you're doing and what you're not doing. Now, if you are claiming, I'm only doing this, we will have a way to verify. Right now, we do not have access and we do not have the tools to verify your claim that I'm only doing this, now this is coming in the way. No. When you're getting this, when you get a doctor's certificate, you get an MBBS, you can treat malaria also and you can treat something else also. So you say, no, but I only treat malaria. We don't have a mechanism for that. Maybe one day it will come. But this is not possible because we see it as a straight case of PMS.
So would I take this that when the account aggregator framework becomes far more powerful, and Mahesh is sitting here, that it becomes far more powerful, and that non-individual accounts can also be shared and joint accounts can also be shared with the regulator. We can have a hope that this would be considered at that time, because that day hopefully is not far away.
Not far away? Oh, excellent. So we will look at it at that time. But right now, we do not see it in the near term, because to us, this is a straight risk of illegal PMS. That's our first principles thinking. So this is not happening in a hurry.
Okay.
And I should not make a forward contract beyond my term.
I think we can extract a commitment from Mahesh that it will happen literally in the next 6 months. Good. The last but not the least important one is this compulsory corporatization limit at 150. About 67% of investment advisors are individuals. And individuals are the lifeblood of any profession. They are the ones who come in with the zeal and the entrepreneurial energy. They are the ones who will reach the nooks and corners, go through the entire strata, not deal only with elite.
I'll give you an answer. We have seen physically, with our own eyes, SEBI officers have seen one investment advisor with one registration, 500 people call center, full-fledged business running. I don't know how many people they drove to suicide. I don't know the answer to that. Okay? So I have a very simple question to ask here. Number one, if you have 500 people and that many clients, corporatize करने में आपको दिक्कत क्या हो रही है? First question. Okay? इतना बड़ा business है आपका, करोड़ों का business चल रहा है, आप corporatize कर लीजिए. अच्छा. No, you are an individual. What, and all of you are claiming that no, we get only fees from advice and from giving good advice and hand-holding our clients, and we have no other source of income, right, related to the markets, etc. Very good. So this kind of client who pays you, let's say 1.25 lakhs, how often does he expect you to talk to him, meet him, guide him, show him data? How often he expects?
So I think again we come back to financial planning.
No.
If it is, there are people who just make financial plans.
मैं सवाल पूछ रही हूँ, आप जवाब दे दें. How often a client would expect, he is paying you 1.25 lakhs per year. How often does he expect to see your face?
Ma'am, what happens there is that they are not the 1,25,000 clients. They are the 15,000-20,000 clients who expect to get a financial plan done. So again and again we come back.
Harsh, you're talking of such, maybe, in your mind, it's like that. It's a very, very small microcosm of the set of people, and I will not believe it unless I see some data on that.
Sure.
So there's no point in discussing, if you are telling me that there is a whole army of people, of investment advisors who only do risk profiling and say asset allocation, and that they get paid a certain amount of money for that. I'm sorry, that's not our understanding of what the investor is asking for. That's not our understanding. So you're going to have to do a lot of regulator education to convince us that that is actually a reality. Okay? And we will go. We will go. You take us, we will go. If you tell us here are 50,000 people, and these people, we only make a plan, give it to them and come away. Okay, तो फिर और कुछ नहीं करना है ना, तो इस साल में 150, अगले साल दूसरा 150. 150 is almost one every working day. 150, if you're only making plans, तो आप risk profiling करेंगे, उसके लिए plan बनाएंगे, asset allocator करेंगे. 150 is all just short of 1 per working day. तो आई एम प्रिज्यूमिंग फिर आप उससे ज़्यादा कितना करेंगे?
So let me.
और कुछ नहीं करते हैं, कुछ हैंड होल्डिंग नहीं करते हैं, तो अगले साल उस कस्टमर को आपकी ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. उसने एक बार आपको 10,000 रुपये दे दिए, आप घर चले गए, वो अपने घर चले गए, बात खत्म हो गई. अगले साल नया कस्टमर. वेरी गुड.
So I think it brings also to the other question about this lack of data, right? And I think this is something we have been requesting, that today you just asked how many people are there. We don't have the answer. We don't have the ability to get the answer. We've been requesting that, the data relating to how many advisors are there, how many advisors are there is available, how many clients we are serving, what is aggregate. We are talking aggregate.
So here's our challenge. We would love it. See, we now thrive on data. You ask anybody in SEBI, the more data, the better. हम एक सर्कुलर निकालते हैं कि भैया आप ये रिपोर्टिंग फॉर्मेट दे दें तो भवाल आ जाता है. Isn't it? पूरी इंडस्ट्री स्टैंड अप्स एंड सेज ओवर रेगुलेशन, माइक्रो मैनेजमेंट, टू मेनी रेगुलेशंस, सेबी मूविंग टू फास्ट. आप ही लोग बोलते हैं. तो फिर आप डेटा देंगे तो आपको डेटा मिलेगा ना. लेकिन जहाँ जिस इंडस्ट्री में 30% of the people have not even come forward and registered with the first level regulator after how many months? How many months?
2 years.
2 years. What you want us to do? And हम जैसे ही बोलते कि आप ये डेटा फर्निश करिए तो there is a mutiny. And SEBI is told that you are being too aggressive. So, show of hands and petition. How many of you would like to have a nice, robust format for furnishing of data at a granular level so that it can then be aggregated and given back to the industry? Chaliye, show of hands.
As long as it is periodical. As long as it is periodic.
हाँ जी, periodic. आप जो बोले.
Yes.
अच्छा चलिए.
Is there anyone who does not want to do this? Is there any RIA in this room who does not want to submit an annual information, annual or any period that the regulator says? Is there anybody at all? There is the answer, ma'am.
Excellent. So can I have a petition?
Absolutely.
Sign. देखो जब तक साइन नहीं होता है ना,
Absolutely.
हमारे यहाँ काम नहीं चलता.
Absolutely.
हाँ?
Absolutely.
तो आप साइन करके दीजिए that the association wishes SEBI to bring a regulation or circular, whatever, which requires the industry players to make periodic submissions of granular data so that the richness of data over time facilitates better policy making, decision making, etc. And we urge SEBI to do this. We'll be delighted. ठीक है? So आज जाने से पहले two signatures already are required. Everybody who raised their hands, you need to sign before you go.
Okay, so there is this other thing about, the unregistered information advisors, and some people might call them finfluencers, etc. And, they're back. The entire RIA profession is very small. On the other hand, the unregistered investment advisors are large and backed by even larger players and the social media giants, etc.
When you say backed, what do you mean?
I mean, we all see the full page ads that come in newspapers,
that same
touting them as advisors, how to find the right advisors who need not be registered with SEBI. And
वो अभी तक दुखती रहा. Thankfully, nobody could blame us for that.
But the issue, ma'am, is that if by being unregistered, you are able to do these things and there is nothing happening to them, okay? And while you are registered, and rightly so, there are regulations because that adds confidence, etc. But unless we take, and even the analysis shows that 56 out of 78, 72% were against unregistered investment advisors. Unless we see some really big UIAs, I would like to call them, I don't like the word finfluencer. Unless we see some action, there is no percentage in being a registered. I mean, when you're looking at somebody who's outside, who's not yet come in, we have all come in. Okay? We are vested in the profession.
No, I hear you, and we are seized of this issue. I would only say that I think today where the industry is in terms of its level of evolution, it's like saying that the government said that there are schools where there have to be rules, and that you're not allowed to set up a school unless you follow the following rules. So your teachers must be qualified, B.Ed hona chahiye, M.A. hona chahiye, teacher-student ratio hona chahiye. I hope you're getting the parallels, right? Qualification hona chahiye, more than 150 clients nahi hona chahiye, right? Student assessment होना चाहिए, रिस्क प्रोफाइलिंग होना चाहिए. तो सरकार ने कहा कि देखिए आप स्कूल चला रहे हैं, बच्चों के लिए रूल्स हैं. फिर क्या हुआ कि ट्यूशन क्लासेस शुरू हुई. फिर पेरेंट्स ने कहा हमको मैथमेटिक्स के लिए ट्यूशन चाहिए, फिजिक्स के लिए चाहिए, ये चाहिए. एंड देयर वाज अ होल मशरूमिंग ऑफ ट्यूशन क्लासेस. इट्स नॉट रेगुलेटेड. Over there, does the government say if you have to be a tuition teacher, you must be B.Ed? No. Does it say no tuition teacher can have more than 30 students in the classroom? No. Right? So if we look around, we find that while it's an issue, it's not the first time in the evolution of a profession that these things happen. If we look carefully, we see around us that there are other examples of this. So we are trying, and now, of course, very soon it will be that, I'm just a chatbot. Who are you going to even ask for qualification? Right? Because it is generative AI. So even the creator of that thing, he will say, I'm just a platform, right? I don't know what that generative AI is doing, right? So this is, on the one hand, not a new problem. So how have the authorities dealt with the issue of saying that there are rules if you're a teacher in a school, but there are no rules if you are a tuition teacher? Now, some parents say, but you know what? You should not allow the school teacher to give tuitions. Right? Because then there is a perverse incentive कि school में मत पढ़ाओ, tuition में पढ़ाओ. So what have we said? We have said you are registered entities, you are non-registered entities. Mr. Registered entities, please don't have any लेना देना with the unregistered entities. आपने देख लिया हमारा consultation paper है. Right? So we are also trying to understand this space and trying to respond to it in a way that recognizes that this is now a cottage industry. This is nukkad mein, and it's going to proliferate with technology. So the responses that we have to have for it has to be different. Right? It cannot be rooted in history because life has changed. So now the question is, we are seized of this issue, we are working, and you've seen the first step that we have taken. Also, I think a little unfair for you, Harsh, to on the one hand say 72% of the orders are against unregistered, but SEBI does nothing about unregistered. So I saw a little bit of a contradiction in that. So I know it's hurting, so you are being unfair to us because it's hurting, so I can understand. But we have imposed large penalties on some people. You have seen those. Those have become marquee cases. There are cases which are going on which are of fraud. So we can deal with fraud. We are empowered to deal. Our jurisdiction is that if you do something fraudulent, SEBI will do something about it. But at the end of the day, you cannot say that I want the thappa of being a government authorized school, but I want the freedom of a tuition teacher. So now somewhere there will have to be a framework where you have to choose. आपको ट्यूशन क्लास चलानी है, आप ट्यूशन क्लास चलाइए. आपको स्कूल में पढ़ाना है, आप स्कूल में पढ़ाइए. You can't say it's unfair. Right? So we are happy to really, and because we are still dealing with this and it's still at, as I said, you've seen 2 steps from us. You've seen us issue some orders. You have seen us issue this consultation paper that registered entities. So there is this whole unregistered world. Registered entities should not deal with them. There also, there is a lot of, in the consultation process, naturally, we get perspective from all sides. We are taking that into account. We are contemplating some additional things, but this is actually the stage of co-creation. So whatever your suggestions are most welcome. But the suggestion cannot be that you give us the freedom of the tuition teacher, but we want the thappa of the school. वो नहीं हो पाएगा.
बिल्कुल ये नहीं चाहते हम. हमको अगर ट्यूशन टीचर बनना होता तो हम यहाँ बैठे ही नहीं होते. Very clearly, we see a huge value in the regulation. What we are asking is that the whole thing should be made a little more equal, That's all that I think we are asking.
See, what does little more equal? See, that's what I'm saying.
I spoke about the recertification, the...
नहीं, वो तो हमारी बात हो चुकी है. आप उसमें जा रहे हो, उधर तो हो गया.
Thank you so much. One thing I do really want to leave the thought with you is that I think there is this general feeling that clients don't pay for advice. I want to leave this thought with you rather strongly, that is changing. It is clearly changing, and there are a lot of us, okay, who believe that is the right way to provide advice. I think you would agree with them. There are a lot of us who do this. This is not just the people in this room. There are hundreds of people watching.
See, as I said,
we are small. Yes, we are a niche.
So what I'm saying is that let's work on it. And as I said, that once this central payment thing is set up, and that comes along with an undertaking that you are not directly or indirectly taking any other money through any other means. Okay? So once that is implemented, I think there will be a little more credibility in terms of our being able to also answer to the investors that, what is the control you have over it? People will say something. What is the monitoring mechanism? What is the, where do you get your confidence from that is happening? Right? Today, when somebody asks us, when I, in every forum, let's say, for instance, I say that according to me, mutual funds are just the best way that any investor should enter the market. Okay, and that too particularly through systematic investment plans. Why do I say that? Because we have solid data and we have the confidence in the industry that it is well governed, that there are risk mitigation things in place, that there is a furnishing of data. Of course, it's a smaller industry. It's, 48 going on 50 if I'm not mistaken. And, here we are talking about 1 million. So the scale is different. But with technology, everything is possible. But, unless देखिए जब तक नींव स्ट्रांग नहीं होगी ना उस पे सुपर स्ट्रक्चर बनाने से फ़ायदा नहीं है वो गिरेगा किसी को मारेगा so you have to strengthen the foundation without that you cannot allow so we have spent many years co-creating with the mutual fund industry you don't know how much pain they have gone through over the last 4-5 years the amount of work that industry association has done in order to build a strong foundation on which now, and we're talking about mutual fund light and all that, saying we want the industry to fly, matlab reduce regulation down to the minimum, just let them go out and create inclusion, let it grow tenfold. So, but you need a strong foundation. And that foundation, only you as an association can facilitate. You try and build a superstructure on the foundation you have today, You do not have a strong foundation. You have a very, very large base of malpractices.
That's exactly what we're trying to sort of
Correct.
segregate through
Again.
the segmentation approach.
We have no dispute with that, but it has to be verifiable segregation.
Absolutely.
It cannot be that I self-certify that I only do planning, and then I have tie-ups with, we've seen all of this. We've seen it a million times, Harsh.
Right.
Okay? We've seen it a million times. I don't give stock tips. I gave you that example. My wife does. ये कोई मतलब हुआ?
I actually wouldn't mind if my wife gives stock tips.
So there you go. So let's move on. Yes.
So I think
Thank you so much.
Basically, I wanted to leave you with the thought that the number of professionals who now look at payment only from clients, not from any other side activity, is growing. Okay, so I do want you to have that thought. We will work to make sure that data comes on that to you on that. Do we have time to take a question from somebody?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, somebody would like to ask a question. Media is not allowed to ask questions, please.
अच्छा, दिख नहीं रहा है. Yes, please.
Yes.
We are referring to the non-registered entities, or those who are registered with SEBI, but those not registered with SEBI. What stops SEBI from withdrawing their license?
Yeah, the principles of natural justice, which very naturally have to be followed, which means that a full-fledged enforcement process has to be followed, which roughly takes between a year and a half, and very senior people in SEBI are required to pass orders of this kind, and therefore to revoke the registration of, let's say, 300 people, 300 enforcement actions will have to be undertaken by SEBI. Now, we are not complaining, I'm not complaining about it, okay, because it is very essential that a regulator is held accountable and due process is followed and that principles of natural justice are followed. I'm just trying to explain to you that right now we have SEBI Bhavan 1 and SEBI Bhavan 2. I often laugh, okay, that some of the things that happen in our market, it won't be long before we need SEBI Bhavan 3. So just imagine if 30% of 1 lakh people or 1 million people, as is my desire, do not comply, even with a simple thing like this, it will, even today, result in 300 enforcement actions of SEBI. Can you imagine the load on the system? And then all of those will get appealed in SAT. So then it will go through SAT. So 300 cases in SAT. So in a democratic system, certain things have been put in place which are very important for as a democratic institution, but this is the implication of that. So it's not that easy कि अरे उन्होंने नहीं register किया तो इनका revoke कर दो. 1.5 साल लगेगा. फिर वो SAT में जाएंगे, वहाँ पे अपील होगा, उसमें 1.5 साल और जाएगा.
Okay, just one last question. Who's that? That person in the back? Yeah. Can somebody get a mic there, please?
Just on this point of this 150 and all,
Sorry, which point?
Sorry,
150.
this point on the one. In my corporate career, I've dealt with a lot of corporates. I came across one organization which was a 1,000 crore turnover company, but was still running as a proprietorship. And otherwise, everyone really naturally transitions to a corporate to access bank loans and to limit their personal liability. But this group chose to remain a proprietorship. So the question is that how does corporatization, I mean, I would be, in fact, advised when I scale up my operations to corporatize, to limit my liability, but if I continue in my personal capacity, I'm exposing my entire net worth.
Yeah.
So why would the regulator really insist? And just one quick point, to get to that 1 million, can maybe SEBI work alongside RBI to maybe nudge the banks to kind of actively take up RIA, because they are like right there across every nook and corner of the country. And today, as we know, the approach is more like a distribution of products and sales based. And banks, being the beacons of trust, should really be encouraged to come towards RIA. They only reserve it for the top echelons of their clients. Rest, the entire spectrum is, thank you.
So I think very valid question, that when we say that when you cross 150, you corporatize, so what is the benefit, right? What is the underlying logic of saying you corporatize? Well, there are two things there. The first is that the mechanism, the investor protection that we expect when there is a corporate structure, a governance structure, a board, a compliance head, right? A certain minimum net worth. So there is let me put it this way, the seriousness and governance which comes with the corporate structure and everything that goes along. In our view, that lends a certain additional layer of investor protection as compared to somebody, a single person, having a point of view, doing certain things, operating in a certain way. The second question was what?
Banks.
So most banks do something called wealth management, right? I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Now, they follow their own distribution, they follow their own economic model as to whether they think distribution is right or investment advisory is right. And that we had facilitated that you can do this at a client level. So you are one institution, not all your clients are the same. Some clients prefer a distribution model, some clients prefer an advisory model. So long as at a client level you do that and at a group level you do that, we are comfortable with that. So to my understanding, the entities are following their own methodology. My understanding is that actually there is an explicit RBI regulation which does not permit a bank to be an investment advisor. Is that right? I think so. They have to take approval. Okay. So I'm saying in any case, this is not something which, as I said, from our side, there is full flexibility. At a client level, if there's any entity, they can say, these are my advisory clients and these are my distribution clients. So we don't have any, we have put no restriction whatsoever. Thanks.
So just one last question before we end. I think one great thing that SEBI did with the regulations, and not too many people are aware of this, is what is called title protection. Under the investment advisor regulations, anybody else, unless they have a license from SEBI, they cannot call themselves as an advisor or a wealth manager or similar sounding names. And this is something that the NAPFA in the US has put up as its advocacy target for 2023. They've been trying now for the last 10 years. This is something that SEBI gave us way back in 2020, and thank you very, very much, ma'am, for that. There's just one follow-up on that, is that whilst the title protection exists, it's not being implemented in fully. Again, there is a question of action against people who sort of misuse those.
No, my understanding is, and we've given open this thing, that please complain to AMFI, because it's mainly the MFDs who are doing this. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Navneet, we've even taken up that their association is still called Independent Financial Advisors Association, and we have said that we have a problem with that itself. So we've advised them to change their name of the association also. Because
non-SEBI regulated people also call
Arey bhaiya,
themselves.
we cannot solve, world hunger. We can solve what is relevant to SEBI. आप हमसे बताएं. We are ready to address the issues we can address. But beyond that, not our jurisdiction.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
Excuse me.
very, very much. I think today we've got answers from her. I think we need to give her a standing ovation. Thank you. Thank you really very, very much for this.
Ma'am,
Just
I
wait
would
for
request
a
you to
minute.
please give us a few more minutes on stage. I would call upon Mr. Tarun Birani for a vote of thanks. Tarun is the founder and CEO of TBNG Capital Advisors Private Limited with a 20 years experience in the industry, and he's been a panelist in the industry for many occasions. Over to you, Tarun.
So, thank you very much, ma'am. I think I have never seen such heartening and such frank discussion with regulator happening at a forum like this. So, thank you very much. And I think glad that somebody is listening to us. And I think this communication will go a long way in building larger trust between us. Yeah. So, I am a strong believer of manifestation. And I think you started with 10 lakh good advisors. So, I give this affirmation that that will happen soon for us, and this will happen. Yeah, thank you very much. So, yes, good advisors. The good advisors will get. So, I really like the way you have a very solution-oriented mindset, and you listen to us, and you approached every question with a lot of data analysis, and that was very heartening and very positive. And I think all of us will go with a very different thought process after we leave this room today. So, thank you very much for that. And again, I would like to take this moment to give our heartful gratitude and appreciation to the esteemed chairperson for gracing us her presence here. And I remember 5 years back, we couldn't think about something like this event with chairperson. And I think that was the power of manifestation which happened here. And it will happen in next 7 years also. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, and I would request Harsh to give a small token of appreciation from our side. Thank you.